Welcome everybody to Happenings in the Dearborn Public Schools. This is the show that lets you know what is happening in the Dearborn Public Schools. Clever name, clever title, right? I mean, the research department just went into overtime to figure that one out. I'm David Mustonen, Director of Communications. Joining me, as always, Dr. Maleyko, Superintendent of the Dearborn Public Schools.
Glad to be here, and you know that catchy name was important to our rating, so I'm glad that we had some research done while we were field testing, you know, what would be effective.
Crack research team.
For explaining that.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we got a lot on our show today. We got multiple guests, so I'm just going to plow right into it. I'm going to get through the happy talk that we always do and just get right into it, because we've got some guests here today joining us. Dr. Violet Souweidane from, well, you're at Edsel Ford and O.L. Smith, correct?
And Stout and Henry Ford.
And just a true asset to our district.
That's nice, thank you.
Well, you're welcome, you're welcome. And senior from Edsel Ford, Noor Alzuabidi. All right, well, welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to talk today about a variety of topics, but the Real Dearborn March is probably one of the big ones that we're going to talk about, but we've got some other things too, is right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this is we're focusing on this, and we had a show on this last year when we had the march on Martin Luther King Day, but in the grand scheme of things, it really goes to, you know, the positive things that are going on in the district and the city as a whole. The great things in Dearborn that we're proud of, which the Real Dearborn, and that's something, you know, that we should be, because, you know, whether it be this march or charitable work in the community, or whether it be students, parents, staff, union groups coming on a proactive assembly for public education, which is, you know, a positive and obvious in our district, and that's what we do, or whether it be this, you know, month we're also going to have a Korematsu Day celebration, celebrating Mr. Korematsu from some of the internment that occurred when he was arrested after World War II, and just kind of looking at the action taken to form our country and some of the things on a national level, then comes back to, you know, what's going on in Dearborn, and we're proactive. And these are all positive messages. We're not looking to get into any negative rhetoric. This is about what we stand for, and that's why I would say the Real Dearborn March, which the students initiated, it wasn't administration, it was a student-led initiative, started it and created that process and really set the bar for the fact that we're going to have a positive dialogue on Martin Luther King Day. So that kind of is the frame of the multiple things, but I think it is important to mention that, and it's also important to mention it was a student-led initiative.
I think it really, for me, working with students, I thought it was very impressive a few years ago when students said, we have MLK Day off, and we're not doing anything to really recognize it as a team. I mean, we may do things separately with our families or with friends, but it would be nice if we came together and recognized such an important day, a historic day, and what it means for all people. So that's kind of how it started. And then it moved into the Real Dearborn, because many of the students felt that people don't really know the wonderful, great things going on in Dearborn, and the richness of having such a diverse community that works well together, that learns from each other. And so they wanted to send a positive message to anyone who's outside of Dearborn to say, you need to come in here and see what the Real Dearborn looks like. This is who we are. And Noor, who's been with us from the beginning, and let me just back up. So I'm working with them along with Norma Harp, who's at Fordson, but you know, we were kind of recruited by the students. They came to us. We didn't go to them.
Wow.
And Noor, who's there from the beginning, has chaired it and has, you know, she and the other team members, just incredible. So I'm going to let you talk about why you all wanted to do this, and what was your goal, and what did you hope to get out of it?
Honestly, our goal was to show like the people outside of Dearborn who we are, because like media portrays us a certain way. They say stuff about us, and like we wanted to be out there and show them what Dearborn is really about, and to be up there and to talk about our personal stories, our personal like experiences in Dearborn, and what makes Dearborn so great.
Now, I know you were pretty instrumental in organizing this year's march.
It's a team effort.
It's always a team effort, but you know, every team sometimes has a leader, and it's okay to be recognized for those things as well. But so just what were some of the things that you and your team had to do to put the Real Dearborn March together?
I mean, we had to get our whole student body to support us and do this with us, because it was a team effort. Like I said, like we had everybody supporting us. Dr. Maleyko was right there, Dr. Souweidane, Ms. Harp, you personally, like everybody was there. So we had to get our community involved as well. So we had to spread the word. We had to like let them be aware of why we're doing this. What's our purpose in it?
Well, but if I could, it was more than that. I mean, really, this is like the CEO of a company here. And that is how she was operating. Really, I mean, I think she can take on any company and she would know how to do it, because we would have these conversations at all hours on any day as to, you know, who are the community members that we missed? Let's not miss anyone. What organizations should we have? Who do we contact that might know more organizations? Do we have things set up with Chief Haddad? You know, we went back to Mr. Peterson at City Hall. You know, can we ask for his help again, which we did, and he graciously offered it. So she had, you know, she had checklists, and you know, there was an agenda at every meeting, and everybody, all the students would contribute, and they had a chat forum where, you know, the other members would chime in and say, let's not forget this, let's do this. I mean, they were running an amazing show. If I was starting a company, this would be the team.
Thank you.
And even towards the end, afterwards, you kept it positive, because I know there were certificates of appreciation went out that I started getting good feedback. So that was such a great, you know, touch. I also know that you know, the Board of Education was heavily involved in this as well. We had trustees marching, and they're very supportive of all aspects. And I was really proud to be there with the students. And again, they initiated it. And what could I do but support all the students in the district with such a positive initiative? And so I would also say, you know, very proud to be the superintendent of such a great district with great students that, you know, continue to move forward. And obviously Noor is an example of one of them, and the other people that were at the march. It was just a real positive feel. You know, I did have one complaint, and that was the only thing was, last year it was on the coldest day of the year. So if you could control the weather, Dr. Souweidane, that's the only improvement issue that we need. But if you could fix that, then, you know. But obviously, I'm kidding. It was a great event. You can't control the weather, but people came out in the cold, and then there was a potential for snow and rain and sleet actually that day. And people came out in March. So.
And there was about 300 people or so who we started at the Performing Arts Center, marched to the Centennial Library, and then came back, and then a little ceremony afterwards where I was impressed at some of the speeches that were given by the students. Now, did you arrange did those students volunteer, or did you select them? How were those students selected who spoke at the event after?
They all volunteered to participate in it and like, do it. They all were very excited to like take a part and share their story and share like their experiences in Dearborn. So that was really amazing.
It was. There were some great stories that came out of that kind of the event after the event there. So. It was interesting.
It was a team effort. I mean, it really, I mean, and the students did bring up Dr. Maleyko as someone who promotes student leadership, and felt confident that if we did this again, because we called on your office a number of times for help, and you were supportive from day one and throughout. And then Ms. Charles, also in central office, was working alongside with us. So without that support, we wouldn't have been able to do it truly.
You made it easy, though, for me, too, because you had so much communication going on in planning that when I was asked to just contact the mayor's office and about the Performing Arts Center, it was already taken care of. I mean, all the work had been done. Now, whether they, you know, and that, again, the mayor was a big part of this as well.
Sure,
in
great
the city,
support from
you know,
the city.
chief.
Yeah.
And so I think it worked out better this year, too, in the Performing Arts Center, getting that facility, because it gave us some room. So logistically, and it got more people involved. So I think that was a great suggestion and a good move to move it there. And again, every year I think it's going to get better. I would anticipate that this is going to be an annual thing that we're looking to do. Hopefully we continue on with other, more generations of students and
Did you
additional.
train? Did you train somebody to follow up?
I'm actually there again next year, so hopefully I'll be.
Okay.
I'm doing collegiate, that's why.
Oh, okay, great, great,
Okay.
excellent.
You know, I mean, lastly, what I want to add is that the number there wasn't as important to us, because I feel like the group that we had there was the core group, and they infiltrated their schools. And so it wasn't just on that day, but up to that day, they had been sending that message of unity and diversity and celebrating it. And then after it's happened, it still continues. So now we have a number of things planned for Black History Month.
Great.
And there
What
are
a great follow-up.
a number of activities that really stemmed from starting something like this. So those who were there brought back the message to their buildings and are the leaders in their building.
That's great. And we've got a full show today, so we're going to rotate out some guests and bring on a couple more guests who are involved in this. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. And we'll be right back in just a quick moment. Welcome back to Happenings in the Dearborn Public Schools. Today we are talking about the Real Dearborn. Yes, this was a student-led initiative, the second year that this has taken place in our district, but even more than just that, just really about all the sustained efforts that we have in our district that focus on these kinds of positive events going on. And so we've reloaded the studio and the set, and we've got our next two guests up here. And Glenn, I'll
So
let you
it's my pleasure
take it over.
Thank you. My pleasure to introduce Layaill Mustafa and Jasmine Little. They're members of the Real Dearborn Organization Committee, and they happen to be members of the Student Advisory Council of Superintendents. So I just gotta say, going in, them and all the other students are very proud of the action you've been taking on multiple fronts in the work. So I guess we could start with you, Layaill. Why are you here? Why were you involved, and what brings you to be participating in these sort of things? Because I do see you involved in a lot of proactive, positive things that we're mentioning here, and you and the other students and Jasmine, you're involved. So why are you doing this?
Well, last year was the first year of the Real Dearborn March, and I personally wasn't involved firsthand, but I went to the march, and just being there and seeing everyone kind of just embracing Dearborn and seeing how amazing the diversity is, I was really passionate about it and I cared a lot about it. So Dr. Souweidane actually approached me to be sort of the Dearborn High liaison, because it started at Edsel, but we use all the high schools around the district, and including Divine Child. And so when she approached me, I was really excited, because I think what this march embodies is just honestly a beautiful thing.
And thank you very much. And Layaill, a former student of mine, going back to Duval when I was a principal. And from time to time we've had her present at the board meetings, right? But Jasmine, yourself as well. Why are you involved in the Real Dearborn March?
Well, as Layaill said, the first time around I wasn't directly involved in the planning of things and the behind the scenes, but I was there in attendance, and I felt that it was such a beautiful thing to see all the different communities, different people in Dearborn come together, and it was just a beautiful thing to see. So I wanted to see how it happens behind the scenes, and I was lucky to have the opportunity through the Edsel Ford Social Justice Club that brought me into it in its wing, and it just happened in a kind of a flow, and I'm proud to be a part of that.
So you mentioned the different schools, and we talked about with Dr. Souweidane, with Noor, some of the logistical things, but you're dealing with 4 separate schools, including 3 that are in the Dearborn Public Schools and then Divine Child within the city. So obviously there must have been some coordination and things there. How did that go, and did you see any benefits to the multiple schools involved with students from the multiple schools?
Well, do you want to answer this one?
We use WhatsApp a lot.
Okay, yes. Just like we do on the advisory council.
Yes.
Today I saw them pop, going.
We use WhatsApp a lot, and of course, the students, there were so many students and everyone's so busy, so a lot, we met a couple times, but a lot of times we were dealing with stuff over email and over text, and I think the fact that we had that technology was really useful in this aspect.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think the great thing about having all these different schools is each school sort of has its own identity and has its own set of diversity and characteristics. So bringing all the schools together, we had a lot of different ideas coming in and a lot of people with different experiences. So that was part of what we were talking about and what we wanted to embody, the Real Dearborn, bringing in everybody and standing for one thing.
So in kind of like what you just said there, so it kind of brought the students, maybe a core group. But then I know the Student Advisory Council, one of the responsibilities that you all have is to not only come to represent your own views, but the school. Do you feel like if we do things like this together, I know the Advisory Council is going to be actually initiating the Korematsu Day. Do you feel like it's bringing students together? And actually, when I started the initiative, the Student Advisory Council, I really didn't necessarily clearly think it through that this would be one of the benefits. It was more for me to connect with students, and that was, I want to be someone that's with the students, promoting students, student interest, listening to students, listening to their ideas, because I think a lot of times we don't listen to the great ideas, and you guys are going to be the future of not only the city but the country, and so we want you to be successful, and so listening. So how do you think that has been a benefit as well of, within the different schools, of the different people coming together and understanding each other?
Yes, I definitely believe so. because the intermingling of the different committees, clubs at the different schools all coming together to organize whether it be one thing or multiple things during a course of a month, and I feel like it bridges the gap between the different schools or the said like division between the schools that's really not there only when it comes to sports, of course.
But even then, I've seen unity, and when we had pink outs and other things for a good
yes.
cause. Even though we want to win the game on the field,
Right.
I've seen the students come together. It's really a positive. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I just feel like the Dearborn Schools District is just basically a big family, and it's really nice to see that the schools can come together for such a good cause and multiple causes on different occasions.
What would you like to see us do? You know, we talked about maybe moving it into next year. I know, Layaill, you're a senior, so you
Yes.
won't, you know. But are there any things that you think that we should be doing related to this? You know, whether it be out there in the schools, or any ideas that maybe you guys have discussed as a group that will help even more. And I know, like, as mentioning today, you know, we've had the Korematsu Day is going to come up and other things, but we also have had students exercising their democratic rights to assemble and talk about diversity and things like, you know, you've coordinated some of those events. So, you know, as that message gets out there, you know, what would you like to see moving forward for Dearborn? And what do you plan to do when you do graduate?
Oh, wow.
That's a loaded question.
It's a lot there, but yeah.
Well, I hope Dearborn continues to be as diverse as it is, and I hope, personally with the Real Dearborn March, what I hope we emphasize later on, which we started this year, is using middle schoolers and even elementary schoolers, because that's an untapped resource, really, because they have great minds too. Just because we're in high school, we're a little bit older, but they're more creative probably.
So, you know, that's a suggestion
Yeah.
too, because I know there's been some suggestion of bringing the middle school students into the advisory council. So whether it be even connecting it with the Real Dearborn March or some of the other leadership clubs. And so we're looking at some ideas of maybe having some executive directors lead those. And in fact, when we have our visit for the advisory council at Fordson, we're going to have some students from Eunice Middle School who are going to come for part of
yay.
their council. So I think that is, you know, a real positive. And so, Jasmine, what about you? Is there anything that you would like to see us do or move on in, you know, in the future?
Piggybacking off of what Layaill said, I really think it's important to reach the younger generations, just so we don't kind of have to rush into who are we gonna pass the torch down to. Well, that will already be set and in place for the next generations to come. Like for the march, my whole family was there, including my 6-year-old brother that goes to Whitmore, and he was just like so inspired. He was like, all the different people, I got a bracelet, and it was so much fun. We were outside, and he was just taking it all in, and I really am glad that I have been able to branch out and make that impact on him. So I hope that we are able to do that with other grades, and maybe even, I don't know if this is far reaching, but like spread it out beyond Dearborn, like how we do diversity in the D with Metropolitan Detroit area schools, and I think that would just be the next big step.
Great idea. That's a great idea. I know the middle school, the STEM middle school students were at the march. They even brought part of their band with them at the
Yes.
march and were
That was-
playing. They kind of just volunteered to do that. So what you're doing is infectious, and it is starting to kind of get people motivated. So that's great.
And I will agree. I mean, it was such a positive feel when we left there, and just being part of whether it be the march or when the program that you put together. I thought it was fantastic, and I think it was said prior, just the comments that were made. And to see you all working together was just a real positive thing, and I think it just shows, you know, I think us as adults can sometimes, we really could learn a
Absolutely.
strong lesson
Absolutely.
from, you know,
Definitely.
trying to work together and doing what's right in society and in the community. So
Yeah.
I
I
thank you.
think that's what like was so great about the march, because when you left, it was just positivity. There's no negativity at all, and it was just everyone was really happy to be there and wanted to stand for something.
Sure. Great. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us. Thank you for all you do for our district as well. I mean, sometimes there's, you know, people, oh, they're students. They're just here to go to school. But you're not. You're contributing to what makes this district great. So thank you. Thank you to all of our students for
Thank
that.
you for allowing us that voice to be able to do it.
Sure. It is our pleasure, and we will continue to do so, and we hope that you pass that on to younger students in the district, and it sounds like you already have a plan of action for that, so that's great. And you did a great job. I appreciate my loaded questions that went on. You did a great job answering, so excellent, and I'm very appreciative as well, so thank you for all the work you do to make the school district look a better place to live and to learn and to get a high-quality education.
Great. Well, again, like that, the time just goes and we're done, and it's that quick. So, but we've got more planned in the future, lots of other topics and lots of other shows to do. Again, this is just one of the many things that goes on here in the district, and we're looking forward to sharing them, right?
Absolutely.
In the weeks
So,
and months ahead, right?
There's more to come, and I know we're going to monitor those ratings closely and find out where adjustments are needed. But
Absolutely. I just hope we don't get any kind of messages that said we need a new host or anything, because I still have a child in college and I need this job. So,
well, I did notice on the last intro they didn't have your name listed, so I don't know if that's but it wasn't me. So just,
I don't know. Maybe it's a
We'll have
hint.
to talk to Mr. Shigfree about that.
That's right. They know more than I do. All right. Well, anyway, that takes care of this episode. But again, as always, look for us on Cable Channel 19. Look for us on YouTube. Check out the superintendent's blog, the communications blog. We've got plenty of tools in this district that we use to communicate, and we want to get our message out there. But most of all, we want to share the great news that's going on in the Dearborn Public Schools, because we are here to serve all of our students, as our vision statement says, students first. And that's really why we're here and what we're all about. So until the next time, remember, just keep listening and keep watching for what's happening in the Dearborn Public Schools.